Hello, my name's Emma Robinson, and I'm one of the co-hosts of Wharton Tech Talks. Join me in talking to Gabe Dominocielo, one of the co-founders at Umbra Space, an Earth observation company founded in 2015 with a nearly $900 million valuation. Gabe shares insights into their pioneering Earth observation technology and their novel business strategy that's driving them forward in a competitive industry. This episode is a part of our series on demystifying the space industry. Check out our other episodes and stay tuned for more. Awesome, Gabe. I'm so happy that you could join us on the podcast today. Where are you calling in from this morning?
I am calling in from Austin, Texas. I am in my home office because I'm about to hop on an airplane to DC, to our new office in Austin, or in DC.
Awesome. I'm sure there's a lot going on right now in DC that needs your attention. But before we delve into the nitty-gritty of Umbra, could you describe Umbra and your role for our listeners in layman's terms?
Okay, my name's Gabe Dominocielo. I'm the co-founder of Umbra. Umbra started 8 years ago, and we invented a very novel technology that allows us to see through clouds and take pictures of objects as small as a soda can.
Wow. Seems like a challenging thing to do. How long did it take you to develop this technology?
Challenging is, it is not fun. I'd say it is like a very long road to start something new. But we can't take total credit for the technology because it has existed since the 1950s. We have evolved the technology to go from airplanes to satellites. And then on satellites, we've evolved the technology to go from being able to kind of see cars, large vehicles, down to very, very, very small objects, even like pom-poms, like being held by somebody's hand.
So what does the market for this look like? Who needs to see what a soda can looks like from space? What sort of problems are you actually trying to solve?
Well, the market itself is very interesting. I would say half of the current market is the United States government. A quarter is, for us, allied foreign governments. I don't know what China and Russia buy, but we don't work with them. So, and then the remaining quarter is probably a commercial market. And the commercial market goes alongside of the largest markets. So satellite data is very expensive. We serve the largest industries: oil and gas, supply chain, insurance, that sort of thing. So the bigger the market, the more probable it is they use our data.
How do you see this market developing over the next 5 to 10 years? Do you imagine that the base of customers will change and adjust or stay the same, or how do you envision it evolving?
I am not like a space guy. I am somebody who thinks about markets really, really deeply. And I think about supply and demand. So Umbra satellites, we have like a lot of novel technology, but the most novel part of what we do is take a lot of pictures. And we don't just take a lot of pictures around Earth. So if we take pictures over open ocean, nobody cares. We take a lot of pictures over high demand areas, these kind of clustered collects, or like a lot of points. So we're able to produce a lot of points per day over high demand areas, which means that we can sell more pictures and make more money. But there is a supply demand equilibrium. So if we have other people in the market who are maybe taking far fewer points, maybe like on the order of like under 100 per satellite per day, there's just not a lot of photos. So if you are taking very few photos, you have a very, very different incentive, which is if I can fly over North Korea, I have to sell each picture for as much money as possible because I can only take 2 pictures. Whereas Umbra, we can fly over a high demand area and take like a lot of pictures, tens, like hundreds, like just take lots and lots of pictures, which means we have an abundance of supply. With an abundance of supply, if you put that into the market, you have to lower the price. If you lower the price, you'll increase demand. I think that finding that supply-demand equilibrium has been really interesting. So we released our product. I mean, the big player in the space is Airbus has a company called Terasar. Terasar, if you look at their price list, and they will charge as much as like $7,500 for a single image at 1 meter. So kind of like the resolution of a car. We came into market and we charge $750 for an image product that's 50 centimeters. So 100% better quality for 1/10 the cost. So I don't know how the market expands, but I hope it does.
I'm sure as more people, especially with the introduction of better AI and increased analytics, the use cases of this will only continue to expand. Have you guys looked into, I know you do not do analytics, but have you thought about the potential with the future of AI?
For us, it would be like, how do you put AI on the spacecraft? But really, it's leveraging our large data sets to customers implementing AI and supporting them. So if you want to do a training model and you have to spend $750 for 10 images, it's like $7,500. Like a college student cannot do that. We have an objective, an extremely aggressive objective, where we're putting like $10 million per year at our prices, so the equivalent like $100 million onto the internet for free with a Creative Commons license to allow people to use the data and train models and sets and come up with really cool use cases.
Awesome. Yeah, I was reading about that. It's on your website, and I would love to revisit that a little bit later in this podcast, why you made that decision. But back to maybe the technology for a second. What has enabled you guys to sell things so much cheaper than your competitors?
We invented something new. The large legacy spacecraft are very, very large, big, like school bus size. If you have to put a school bus size satellite on a rocket, it costs like, I don't know, a lot of money, like $50 to $100 million. I don't know the exact prices now because I don't care anymore. And I think what happened was a lot of smart entrepreneurs said, we're going to have a cheaper product and a cheaper device. And if you lower the launch cost to, let's say, $1 million, then you can proliferate a lot of satellites. So maybe if like you launch 100 satellites for $1 million each, that's better than having kind of a high quality satellite that costs $300 million. The issue with that thesis was, I'm going to say it, the unit economics, where if you have 100 systems that last a very short period of time, your asset depreciation is such that you cannot generate enough revenue to have a profitable company. What the investors in the Valley didn't understand was these legacy satellites that cost hundreds of millions of dollars produce a lot of points per day and last for a very, very long time, like 20 years. The asset depreciation is like much, much lower than a 100 satellite constellation. So what we invented was a spacecraft that was low cost, but had a capability or even a better capability than anything else in the market. If you look at the other players in the space, they put something in the market that was like worse, but cheaper. And then we put something on the market that was better and less expensive.
So you were saying that the part of the core of this is you were able to develop a satellite that was somewhat cheaper, but still kind of a large sat, not one of these small sats that will depreciate. So it's still small.
No, it's small. So like we have the cost really low. It's 75 kilograms. It is very small. So like the internal cost to us is important because we are our own customer. We produce products and then sell them. So our unit cost is super low. And then the amount of product out of that unit is very, very high, the output.
Okay, I understand now. That makes a lot of sense. And I can see how you've differentiated yourself from those with maybe CubeSats and mega constellations versus those to the really large satellites. To step back for a second, I'd love to hear more about since we have a lot of founders and people interested in scaling companies that listen to our podcast, I'd love to hear more about what made you decide to enter the space industry, since I take it that you do not have a space background.
Maybe it was a low IQ, but I think that my co-founder, David Langen, who's the CEO of the company, has a incredible space background. He spent a decade working on advanced space systems at companies which became Northrop Grumman, solving kind of the world's most difficult problems in satellite architecture. And we're friends. We've been friends since high school. And I'm almost 40 now. I think that if you're going to start a company, you should probably start a company with the smartest person you know. This is the best advice I would give there. I've been kind of a lifelong entrepreneur. I started a company right out of college. And never knew the difference. I've never had like a job. Like I've never worked at a job with like a boss. And I knew that that environment would never be good for me. I'm like an extremely flawed person, like terrible ADD, awful dyslexia, cannot focus. And the idea that I had to be put into a work environment where I was forced to do one thing was not feasible. Entrepreneurship was kind of the only path for me.
So you're attracted to the idea of being forced to take on a wide variety of tasks.
I would say that I have a lot of responsibility, but I'm accountable for very little. So I am highly, highly focused on what I do. Let's say if you have to go raise money or something, there's a lot of things that you can do at once, but I'm highly focused on like one task. I often joke that I'm a button. So if there's something that the company needs done, it's like you can press the Gabe button and it'll get done, but it probably is not going to be done how you would expect it to be done. So I think about things very differently.
No, entrepreneurship often needs that level of creativity, since every problem you face is a new problem, one that you haven't tackled before. So if you didn't have a space background, what sort of skills did your partner see in you that helped him decide to bring you on as a partner?
I mean, we're friends. We've been friends for a really long time. So we had a lot of trust. Like David and I, we see a problem and our path to the solution is very different. The way he thinks about a problem is like very different than the way I think about a problem. We have so much trust and so much shared values that we almost always agree. I cannot think of one like where we've ever had a fight where it's been like bad or a disagreement. We're always in total agreement, but our paths to get to that outcome are wildly different. And we learn from each other. I learned so much from David today. Like yesterday, we was on the phone. Like we learned so much from one another about every part of the business. I don't know why we picked each other, but it seems to be working out. 8 years and no fights.
No, that's great to hear. I'm always interested in how people find their co-founders, since a lot of people find them just randomly in a meeting.
Yeah, stupid. It should be really meaningful.
So for those, I know a lot of people looking for their co-founders at the moment. Do you have any advice on what are some key qualities or key ways to approach this problem?
You're going to be doing something, no matter what sector you're in, that is very, very hard. You hear a lot about persistence. I've definitely heard a lot of people talk about persistence, but focus. You're going to have so many problems face you every single day that if you're not determined to get through them, let's say you have a bad day, whatever, you have to go into work with a smile, and you cannot let your like environment affect how you work. That kind of lack of focus will kill a company. It'll kill a founder, it'll kill a relationship. You just have to go in, you have to do the job. I think you hear a lot of people like, you got to do what you love, or you got to do this. It's like, no, you don't. You just have to go in and accomplish a task.
Yeah, I imagine that. Well, I've never started a company, but while you might be really excited about the idea, there's going to be parts of the job that are just going to be not your favorite, and you still have to.
Do you think I want to learn the math, like geometry? Like I don't, but I do. Like if I can go and I can talk to people about the geometries of the satellite and this and that, and it's like, I didn't want to learn that, but I did, because I have to understand what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Even just the nitty gritty of figuring out taxes and payroll and all of that stuff. There's so much minor stuff to look at. I assume that your partner was the one that had the idea. Did he come to you with the idea for Umbra already, or did you work together to figure out the best business plan or best concept?
We knew we wanted to start something together, and we spent 2 years coming up with the perfect system. And I think that there's two very important things that happened in that period. We made a lot of mistakes with our own time and money and did not include investors. If you go and say, I'm going to start a company today and raise $500,000, your investors are going to tell you, you need to get that product to market as quickly as possible so I can get my money back. Because we're using our own time and money, we didn't have an outside influence telling us how to build our product. So we took all that time trying to understand what the customers wanted, and then how to like essentially invent technology around the customer's needs rather than going with our first idea and moving super fast. But we were able to learn an incredible amount of things in that period. The other thing that David and I will have that is we're both super humble about what the other person does. And I mean, David will say, I don't understand whatever the payroll system. And I say, oh, I've done that before. It's fine. I'll say, well, I don't understand synthetic aperture radar and like the orbital mechanics. Like we're both really willing to learn. And the other thing is like, because our product never existed, it did not exist. No one is an expert. People say they're experts. People say they worked on systems. I mean, we had very, very, very smart people, like leaders of other satellite companies. We released the highest resolution image from space recently. And these like very qualified leaders were like, you lowered your satellite, took the picture, and then moved it back up. So I promise you, no one understands this. So if you're like a big shot thinking that you understand what you're doing, you're going to leave so much information and learning on the table. And I think our team has been really good about learning, like a constant stream of learning and getting better, because nothing we do and nothing we have done has been in a book.
That's one of the things that attracts me to kind of emerging technologies and deep tech so much is that the technology is still being things that people have thought of. No one really understands it. It's truly cutting edge. So that's always exciting. But what are some of the first surprises or unexpected challenges you faced in building Umbra early on?
It's all super hard. Because we were doing it with our own time and money, I think investors would have been like, we have capital. Why don't you just buy a radar? And we could have bought a radar for, I think it was like, we'll call it on the order of $150,000. And then like flown the radar, demonstrated that it would work and all that. We had to build the radar, which was hard. And then we had to build the radar at a bandwidth that like had never really been done before. That radar was extremely challenging to build. Also, it's like you don't really know where to get the parts. If you have something as an idea, going and implementing it is very, very difficult. And it's very difficult with constrained capital. But constrained capital allows you to think and learn and behave in a way that other people do not, who have an abundance of capital. So in the abundance of capital, there's going to be a much easier path, which is like buy it. We had a much, much harder path. So like at every major decision point, we also invented this antenna, which is patented. At every decision point, we chose the super hard path because we didn't have the option to take the easy path. But the outcome now is like, if you look at all the companies with publicly available financial information in Earth observation, we make more money. And that's it. At the end of the day, what are we doing? We have to make a lot of money and we have to produce a venture return, and you cannot just burn cash.
Do you wish you had taken more cash early on, or you think just this outcome really justifies your decisions?
The outcome absolutely justifies it. You can ask any investor in any Earth observation company.
So what made you decide to eventually take investors' money? What was the pivotal moment there? Was it a certain technological or tech goal that you were looking to meet before you made that decision, or what made you change?
Kind of our first meeting with an investor, he said, go as long as possible without taking investor dollars. And the reason why they tell you to do that is because you're eliminating a lot of risk. It also shows a lot of determination. So if you spend a year working on something with no outside capital, it's seen as what they call a signal, as somebody who's like very devoted to doing this. If you do it for like 2 years with all of your money, it's like this person is going to just walk through walls. So we just went a really long time, as long as we could, and then when it made sense to raise money to hit our next inflection point, we went to some really great angels and some very good VCs who supported the company. And then for kind of each inflection point, we raised more money.
Now you said that going off your own capital reduces risk in some sense, but also sounds like it's a major risk using just your own money to bootstrap it for 2 years.
You can't be scared. Could you imagine starting a company and not betting every single penny you have on your idea? Like, who would want to give you money if you didn't? It goes to like determination and a will to provide a really great product to your customers. We didn't have a choice.
There are other options. So there's also government grants to do. What was your early relationship with the government look like, since now they're a key customer?
They were like, this is impossible. We're never going to give you money. They're like, no way. No freaking way. That antenna is not going to open. That radar's super hard to do.
Wow, so you really proved them wrong. That must be satisfying.
I would say that it is never satisfying to prove the government wrong.
Fair enough.
I don't know that there's any satisfaction in succeeding. I mean, the biggest satisfaction we see is like we're playing this kind of infinite game. We're not trying to like win satellites. We're trying to be in market for like centuries. So our relationships with the government are very, very important. And the government shouldn't think that we were right. But the government's job is to take proven technology and then buy it. Government grants for extremely crazy like science fiction probably is not a great method because we don't want the government picking winners and losers. It has to come from the private sector. And once you've proven it, then the government can be like, oh, this is a product and service. I'll put it this way. Maybe you have smaller grants and things like SBIRs, which are designed to make mistakes, where you let entrepreneurs do it. And it's like kind of small amounts of capital. You can't make big mistakes in the architecture or people like die. I'm fine with that. So I think a lot of people hate the government grant system, and I would have loved to get it. Now that we like make a bunch of money from the government, I'm like,
You're okay with it now.
Yeah, like I hated it, but I understand why.
Yeah, in the space series, we definitely have a few other companies a few companies have captured a lot of the SBIR grants and used it to help scale their company. From a high level view, you developed the radar and the technology, and then did you launch one satellite, take a photo, prove the concept, and just decide to scale from there? Or what did that early stage look like from testing to deciding this is genuinely commercially viable?
We have a board member who's like very, very thoughtful. Like he's probably one of the most thoughtful people in the world. He thinks about problems he's like a historian, he's a financial guy. He thinks about problems in like 1,000-year timescales. And when we started, he's like, you should probably have enough money for 6 satellites. We raised enough money to build and launch 6 satellites. After the second satellite, we got our first image from space. And I think that at that time, we raised more money to fund the next kind of tranche of satellites. And then we did a raise last year after having products in market and demonstrating product market fit. I don't know how you define a startup anymore, but we're probably not.
So you drive most of your revenue from the U.S. government and foreign governments. What sort of lessons have you derived from the traditional defense primes versus what lessons have you derived from the Silicon Valley, or what lessons have you rejected from both?
So I think that we've rejected all of it. I think Silicon Valley, like they have been so wrong about aerospace and defense to the point where it is like totally negligent. It's like really, really disappointing as somebody who really cares about the sector. The VCs just never understood it. And I watched them pour cash into companies that have extreme capital intensity and very, very long timescales to revenue. But we're selling this like big dream that never, ever would have ever made sense. And it was like totally negligent. And then the primes sell their product in a very, very different way. The government goes to a long-time trusted partner, like Lockheed Martin, and said, you landed a man on the moon, like you're great. We're going to pay you to build a satellite, and it's going to be what's called a cost-plus contract. So if it costs $100 million, you'll make $10 million in profit. If you overrun the budget to $200 million, you will make $20 million in profit, which gives the big primes essentially zero incentive to ever save money. There's no incentive. And because we're our own customer, we had to take a big bet ourselves, which was we had to raise money, we had to build the system, demonstrate the system, and start building trust with the government to sell our products as a service, which is like we essentially sell a point in time, and the government can buy that with a transparent price list. I think that there's like some threads of that maybe in Silicon Valley, but the way that the companies were formed was very, very reminiscent of software. There was an expectation that the companies would grow to an extreme pace without massive amounts of dilution. And frankly, the exact opposite has happened, where we've been around 8 years, in the last 5, if you invested in a space company, the internal rate of return on that capital has been crushed, not beating the S&P. And I'm not saying that we're better, like we're smarter than everyone or anything, but I was very cognizant of what that meant. For us, we raised the least amount of money out of any of the Earth observation people and now make the most amount of money, which is like the internal rate of return for our investors has been really, really high. But because the people at the company are the largest shareholders, we have like a duty to make sure our employees don't have their equity crushed trying to build 1,000 satellites for some crazy dream that can never make money. Also, the government hates it. The government can do math. Like, if you have a satellite that costs $20 million, it lasts for 3 years and produces $3 million in revenue, that's $9 million over the life of the satellite. So if you're spending $20 million, you subtract 9, it's a net loss of $11 million. On no planet does that make sense. It's horrible. But people have to learn. If no one is taking this period and learning from it, like, we're in big trouble as a country. So I will be on my soapbox about these issues.
So you think you've been able to avoid a lot of this by focusing on ensuring cost efficiency and revenue early on? Is keeping that in mind what's prevented you from going into these cost overruns?
No, it's been really simple. I think that a very strong thing that Umbra has is we're very simple. Where if you look at our product, we don't do analytics, we don't do all these things. It's very simple. We take a picture, we sell it. In many ways, we have a business model that's much closer to like a Nike or a liquor store than anything else, where you're like going into some platform and you're running analytics and you're getting these answers and blah, blah, blah. Like, the cost to do that is insane. We have to solve one really, really difficult problem, which is getting a next generation satellite into space. It's super hard. If I had to then also do analytics and compete with Google, Raytheon, Oracle on insights on our data, the cost, like our overhead cost, would be like double, if not triple, which means that the amount of revenue that we have to generate is much, much higher in order to just like break even or lose money. So we kind of had this philosophy, because raising money has been super hard for us generally. Now it's different. In the early days, it's super hard. I would go into a meeting like, my objective is to build a company that makes money. And they're like, well, what's the vision? It's like, my vision is to make money. And they're like, well, that's ugly. We don't like to hear that. Money's not a good incentive. And I'm like, no, money is the best incentive, actually. Money is like how I have happy employees. It's going to give them great healthcare and stock options and all these things. Like, that is probably the best incentive for a company. Like, well, we'd much rather invest in a company that counts trees. I'm like, okay. Because we've had this like very, very difficult path, we treated every financing as if it would be the last time we would ever raise money. And if that is how you think about things, when the economy collapses and like interest rates are 6% and money is constrained, you're fine. But if you're like, oh, the party's going to go on forever, interest rates are going to be zero, VCs are going to just give me millions of dollars for growth, in quotes, then your behavior is going to be totally different.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you definitely built kind of a resilient company. Right now our economy, especially in the tech sector and the space sector, is facing a lot of headwinds. You think this resilience kind of culture that you've built or tried to create will help you continue to raise funds in the future, or how might your strategy change, if at all?
We are playing an infinite game. So it's, how do we have the company last 100 years? Like, how do we continue to play the game? And kind of winning by exit or IPOing or having the most satellites or the most thing, like whatever, I don't know, whatever silly metrics there are for being the quote unquote best, is like best resolution, best whatever. For us, it's how do we serve our customers? How do we build trust with customers that is going to last 100 years? And the way you do that, and the way that you have really strong trust with your customers, is you have a healthy company, which means we're going to move slower. We are not going to be the first to market. We weren't. Like, there was several other companies that were started at the same time as us. We were the last ones in the market by years. But that's okay because we're supporting our customers, making money, we're supporting our employees. Our investors have like an unrealized IRR that's significantly better than anybody else's. So you have to do those. Like if you do things right on the top line, the bottom line will follow.
We mentioned earlier that you have very transparent costs and open licensing policies. Has that been one key way to continue to build trust with your clients? And why continue doing that? Why not try to build specific contracts?
We're not trying to game the system to make more money over one quarter. We're just trying to build a really, really great company. And the way that you build a really great company is this like long-term trust with customers. If I have my price list on the internet and then suddenly I take it off and be like, no, we're going to do this negotiation and blah, 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 they're going to hate me. Or if I go, oh, you have a product that looks at whatever, just call it mines, like iron ore. It's like, wow, you're making like $1 million looking at iron ore. What if I hired an analytics team and then started selling an iron ore product? You would think I'm an asshole and you would not want to buy data from me. These channel conflicts, which are extremely prevalent in this industry because everyone's trying to get money or market share or signal something for the next quarter, the next raise, blah, 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 is insane. If you want to build a long-standing company, you can't have channel conflicts. Your customers have to love you. Your customers have to want to buy product from you. And we just think that that's a much better model than kind of competing with your customer or trying to get the best quarter or whatever.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. My one question or response is, do you think that's going to limit your ability to scale in the future, not expanding into other services?
That's a really good question. That is a really, really good question. And the answer is, I don't care. So if our TAM, so like here's the thing, like VCs hated this model, where it's like, wait, the radar market is like maybe single digit billions, or like Earth observation, like that data market, single digit billions. But the data analytics market is like $100 billion. You have everything from like Uber to Google Maps to the guy looking through a theodolite trying to see if a bridge is going to break. Or like the environmentalist in cargo pants and Crocs who walks in the forest with a drone and then does some analysis and tells you whatever, how the deer are nesting. There is no point in trying to get market share in a market where everybody hates you and no one wants you to succeed. Right now, I can grow market share where everyone loves us and wants us to succeed. The moment that I step out of that, then it probably hurts the part where we're winning. Like we're pretty steadfast on it. Like we're not going to compete with our customers. We're like not going to sell to the Chinese. We're not going to do a couple of things that we just believe are right. And if I wind up just like making billions of dollars a year and I'm wrong, okay, I'm being wrong.
No, I like that attitude. A lot of people, and especially in order to attract more capital, are always saying that we can expand into this service or this vertical or what have you, and really just pushing the total addressable market or their own internal growth rates truly to the limit. It's refreshing to see someone have a strict track, and I think the market's growing at a pace enough that'll support you, hopefully for a long time.
The reality is the market is much bigger than what we're selling now. Like we still have a lot of work to do. And the idea that I would go and talk about some AI that goes and tells you whatever is like, no, we have like a ton of work ahead of us to like make billions of dollars. Why is it so bad to make billions of dollars?
That's the goal everyone has, but no one wants to speak about. So a couple one, I guess, key wrap-up question. One of my interests with this space series is to show that space is an accessible industry to people without engineering backgrounds or strict technical backgrounds. So how would you recommend getting involved in the space industry, and how did you get yourself smart on this whole thing?
The idea that I'm smart on this whole thing is a total misnomer. So I know that that's not true, but I think that what I did is I actually listened to a lot of podcasts. But like we started the company 8 years ago, and there was a podcast with the founders of Skybox. They were bought by Google and then bought by Planet, which is like a optical telescope, like in satellites. And it was listening to them in like this, where I learned the path they went through and the journey. But I think having a constant state of learning and making sure that you don't say that you know everything or that you understand anything. Like you want to eliminate any kind of arrogance from the process, which is like always my feedback in investor pitches, whereas like, I know the math on this. These are the unit economics, blah, blah, blah. And everyone's like, you sound arrogant. I didn't do it, but I now see in like founders, they don't know anything. Now I know for sure that I don't know anything, but I'm definitely always willing to learn. And I think that that's the best thing you can do.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. If you already know every single thing about an industry that you're trying to innovate in deep tech, then maybe they don't need your product, or maybe it already exists.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It has been truly wonderful to learn more about Umbra. So thank you so much.
Thank you.